Hello, everybody, and welcome to our next episode of Friday Lives, our casual chat with content creators about everything live streaming. My guest today is Dylan Hey. He is a co-founder of HeyDigital agency and the host of the Marketing SaaS show. Today, we're going to talk about how live streaming helps the SaaS companies to change their game in terms of sales and marketing their products. Dylan, hello, and welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you so much. I'm really excited to be here with you today.
Awesome. Welcome. Well, I kind of briefly introduced you as the host of the Marketing SaaS show. We're definitely going to dedicate some time talking about that. And we will also talk about HeyDigital agency and how you work with the SaaS companies, trying to help them with their marketing needs and how the live streaming and live videos play into that. But let's just start with a brief introduction. Just kind of introduce yourself, how you would normally do that in your own words, so to say.
Sure. Yeah. Thank you. So my name's Dylan Hey, as Anya said in the intro, and I am the CEO and co-founder at a company called HeyDigital. So we are a PPC agency. We run paid advertising campaigns specifically for SaaS companies. And outside of that, I do a lot of my own content creation that centers around live streaming and podcasting. So we have our podcast, which is called the SaaS Marketing Show, where we interview CMOs and leading marketers at large SaaS companies, share some tips and tricks from them about what's worked well within their marketing. And then at the moment, I'm live streaming every single day for like a 30-day challenge across multiple different platforms using Restream, doing what I call the SaaS stream. So it's a daily stream series where we're talking about like latest news within SaaS, sharing some tips and tricks, sharing things that are working well for our clients and customers, and talking about how live streaming can help SaaS businesses and how lots of other marketing can help them as well. So that's a quick introduction to me. I'm based in Estonia, here in Tallinn, which I'm sure we'll talk about a little bit later on. I'm originally from the UK, as you can probably tell. And I think hopefully that should have covered most of the important bases that people usually ask, Anya.
Yeah, it totally does. Yeah, that's perfect. Thank you so much. So why don't we go ahead and start with kind of your first experience in live streaming? You mentioned that you now produce the SaaS marketing stream. You do this marathon-like challenge when you basically stream daily. I absolutely adore your dedication on that because I'm streaming once a week, right? This is a weekly show, and I feel like it dominates my Fridays for sure, and definitely a lot of my weekdays as well in preparation. So tell me about how you started streaming and how that first, like what triggered that first stream in your life?
Yeah, really good question. So live streaming is something that I've been thinking about and wanting to do for a long time. Same thing with the podcast. I've wanted to do the podcast for a long time also. And about 3 months ago now, we're quite a small team still at HeyDigital. There's 4 of us, but that growth has only happened recently. It was just myself and my co-founder Celia for a little while. We've brought 2 additional people onto the team over the last couple of months. And bringing those amazing people onto our team, Sam and Irada, has enabled me to spend more time on marketing both our business and for me, myself. And that freed up a little bit of time for me to do more podcast interviews and do more live streams. So that was the first step. And then when this whole current kind of world situation happened, I was drawing some inspiration from a couple of other entrepreneurs that I follow who had decided to start doing daily live content as a test. And I was really impressed when I was seeing not only the level of production quality of their videos, but also the really great engagement they were building with their audience and the community that they were building. Now, I've been building my own audience on LinkedIn and other platforms for the last couple of years, but never really through any live content. And I knew that there was an opportunity there to do that. So the kind of combination of us expanding our team, people being at home now and spending more time at home, drawing inspiration from others. And then I saw a video interview that was being done with the founder at Restream, right? With one of the guys here within the Estonian tech community was interviewing the founder at Restream, and that I guess was probably the point that made me go, okay, I'm gonna start using Restream myself. I've been thinking about live streaming for a while, and that was a month and a half ago now, I guess. So yeah, that's a quick intro as to why I decided to start doing live content or how I got into that place as well.
Yeah, well, that's awesome. That's a great story. Yeah, I remember that interview very well. And yeah, it was very kind of one of those super honest interviews. Like Alex, our co-founder, went like just all the way in of what was happening and how they started and all the challenges that they had with raising funds and with a language barrier that they had because both of the co-founders are from Ukraine. And yeah, it was very inspiring stream. So yeah, I'm so happy that it kind of influenced other people, and so that's really great to hear. So let's talk about software as a service companies. That is kind of like our theme today for this live stream and for this show. Tell me a little bit about the most common problems that the SaaS companies are coming to you with. What are they trying to solve when they approach HeyDigital?
Yeah, good question. So at HeyDigital, we focus purely on paid advertising for SaaS companies, right? So we don't do all of their marketing. It's just paid ads. So usually when people come to us, it's because they have reached a point where they have built out successful like inbound marketing processes. SEO is working well for them, driving trial signups or demo bookings. They maybe have an outbound sales team that's working well, and they want to add in an additional scalable acquisition channel. So they have a product that works, they have a funnel that's converting well, and now they just want to pour some like gas on the fire, I guess, and start to expand out. So often the people that come to us, it maybe is their first time running paid ads, but it's the business is at a very self-sufficient point, and now they're trying to just expand pretty aggressively. So that's one use case. And then the other use case when people come to us to work with us is if they are if they're running ads already and they're having some challenges or some issues with those. Often the problems that they're trying to solve is very, very simple. So with everyone that we work with, either they need more people or want more people booking onto demo calls or product calls with their team, or they need to have more people going through their trial sign up workflow. So usually with all of our customers, of course, the end goal is getting them more paying customers and adding more monthly recurring revenue or annual recurring revenue to their business. But to get to that point, our core metrics that we typically focus on are, depending on the business we work with, driving more demos or driving more trial signups for them. Yeah.
Awesome, got you. Yeah, that's great stuff. Just a quick interruption here for people who are joining us. I can see some people coming in the chat. That's great too. It's great to see everybody. We are going to be taking questions from the chat for Dylan today. It's going to be in about 15, 20 minutes in the middle of the show. I like to do that in the middle so you guys can kind of affect our flow directly, and we basically create some space for you, not towards the end, so you don't have to actually like sit here for an hour and wait until your question gets answered. So please submit your questions for Dylan, for sure, for me, about Restream, about HeyDigital, about live video and his experiences. We'll be happy to kind of look at your questions and also comments. If there's something that you'd like to add to the conversation, that would be also very good for us to hear. So PPC being the main thing that the companies are coming to HeyDigital for, this is kind of the expectation, the problem that they're trying to solve. What are their expectations in terms of return on investment? And I know we kind of talked about that during one of your podcasts and just in our personal conversations. Favorite question when someone hires a PPC agent or PPC professional, of course, the expectations are like, oh my gosh, it's going to be crystal clear. The metrics are going to be great. This times this is going to equal that in terms of conversions. What is your take on that? What is your experience in terms of expectations versus reality when it comes to return on investment on that marketing channel?
Yeah, for sure. It's a really good question. It's one that we get all the time, right? And especially right now, because we're super busy onboarding new clients, especially over the last couple of weeks. And the short answer is that it's challenging, and it really varies and depends on the company that you're speaking to. The challenge with SaaS companies specifically is that in e-commerce, for example, let's say my business sells these tripods, right? It's very, very clear that if I'm running an ad and someone clicks on my ad, they purchase the tripod. If I'm using like Shopify or something else, I see in the back end, okay, they made that purchase directly because of the ad, and this is what the ad is worth to us. Now, with SaaS companies, there's many other elements that you need to take into consideration. So depending on the SaaS business, if it's a larger kind of B2B focused SaaS company, they might have sales cycles that are 6 to 9 months long. There is a 14-day trial with most companies. Some people do a 30-day trial. There's lots of different elements to take into account. And when people are looking at SaaS companies, very rarely do they see an ad on Facebook or on Google or anywhere else, click on that ad, and then sign up to your SaaS company immediately. Of course, some of them do, but there will be a huge portion of people that will be clicking through from your ad, leaving your website, seeing a remarketing ad, then coming back and reading a blog post, then searching something on Google and finding you organically. And I guess what I'm trying to say is within SaaS companies, there are multiple different touch points. So sometimes precisely tracking the direct ROI from ads can be challenging, only because everybody has a different attribution model within marketing. So if you're in a marketing team and you have someone focusing on your SEO, someone doing your ads, someone doing your sales outreach, everyone wants a piece of that. Like if I purchase something and I've read an SEO post and I've clicked on a paid ad, like how internally do you determine which one of those points was the thing that caused me to convert and purchase? So that's the challenge sometimes. So what we usually focus on is we'll be, depending on the size of the business, we can look into, and depending on how well their analytics are set up as well, because this is also important, we'll be able to look into like CRM data, and we'll be able to look at analytics like journeys and see how often ads were involved or where those touch points were or what the last touch point was before someone purchased or converted, for example. But the way that we like to look at things with our clients is we see when you work with an ads agency or a PPC agency that you bring us in and we're working with your entire team, so everything pieces together. Now, it's not the easiest answer sometimes, right? Because people do just want to see a black and white ROI. Unfortunately, it's very challenging to do that, but we can definitely see the impact that ads are having just by looking at, okay, how much monthly recurring revenue have we added this month that was impacted by PPC? How much has our direct web traffic increased? What we usually do in terms of setting goals with our customers is instead of like, we're always looking at our ads and the performance and seeing how that ties into revenue through their CRM data, etc. But the goals that we set are usually based on metrics such as number of confirmed demos that have been booked or trials that have signed up. And then in the back end, we start following that through. So yeah, hopefully it's a challenging question that I know you and I talked about previously also, and we could kind of really go into the depths, but the honest answer is that it's also different for every company depending on like what tech stack they use, for example, what their trial period is like, what their LTVs are as well. So yeah, that's the quick answer. Anya, I'm just going to shut this blind for a second as well.
I was going to suggest that would be a good thing. Yeah, let me unspotlight you and just leave me while you're doing that. Yeah, so I think what Dylan was saying, definitely interesting conversation, because a lot of people, when they think about PPC, there is this idea of like very clear return on investment. And the bottom line is that there is no easy formula that you can just apply and it's going to work for everybody at the same time, every time, for every product, for every industry and every area. So it's still going to be a little bit of magic and a little bit of luck and a little bit of kind of, you know what you're doing. Does that sound right, Dylan?
Yeah, exactly. And I think, to be honest, when you're looking at paid ads as a SaaS founder or a SaaS marketer, of course, you always want to see how that's impacting the business. But if you're looking at purely from okay, if we put X number of $1,000 in, how much are we going to get out? Yeah. Often that you won't be able to see that. And I don't actually believe that that's the right way to look at marketing for SaaS companies. Like definitely if you're an e-commerce business or you have a very clear product, then it is. But within SaaS, you have to understand what the buying journey is like for people. And people don't just click on an ad and purchase. Like there's so many other touch points. So as a marketer, if I'm speaking with a senior marketer at a company and they don't understand that, that's actually a red flag for us that we don't know if we would want to be working with them, because if they don't look at things that way, it shows me that they don't really understand the full effect that a proper marketing funnel has within the SaaS business. Because your PPC should be informing your SEO strategy. Your SEO team should be working with your PPC team. Like your community team should be working with PPC. Like you should all be grouping together to ultimately drive the entire business forward instead of just segmenting specific channels. But I guess that's some of the nuances of working with SaaS businesses. It's challenging for us as well, but it's something that there are definitely key indicators that you can look at to see that whether things are working or not too. So yeah, hopefully that answers that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's all great stuff. So you mentioned other marketing channels. So this is kind of this is one of the questions that I am always curious about from your perspective, with your experience working with different SaaS companies. While you focus on PPC, I'm sure you're very aware of other opportunities how you could promote and sell SaaS products. What, in your opinion, based on what you see with your clients, are the marketing channels that are the most underrated or underused by those kind of companies?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So I'll start with like a PPC related one, and then I'm going to share some others. So one objection that we get fairly frequently is people will say to us, hey, look, I don't think social ads will work for a complex SaaS product or a B2B product. So they're talking about Facebook and Instagram usually. Now, as with our agency clients, we actually see like phenomenal success on Facebook with most of the companies that we work with, and on Instagram, even if they have a really long sales cycle, or they might seem like a really boring traditional product. We see it works very well. I think the nuance to that is that one thing we do incredibly well in our team is really great creative like design and direction. So we produce really great videos, really great assets. But I really would say that's one channel to look at for all SaaS companies, is like how they can be leveraging paid social better. But I guess that's like a fairly boring answer for me to give. So the second one that I want to talk about, there's probably three. I will talk about live streaming too, but I know we have more questions on live streaming for SaaS companies later on. So I'm going to kind of leave that one till a little bit later. I do believe that this is something that should be used and is extremely powerful for SaaS companies right now. But then the other thing, and this is relevant for SaaS companies, but also I would say, to be honest, any like business that is involved in online, and that is LinkedIn. Like I see a huge opportunity. Everyone knows how active LinkedIn is becoming for content and content creators. But one thing that companies aren't doing too well is leveraging and empowering their team and their employees to build their own personal brands, like share their own content on LinkedIn as a platform specifically. And I see like I'm just building out a program right now. We're a small team of 4 people, but I'm building out like a pilot program for my team to help all of them build their own brands on LinkedIn. And I see when we look in the SaaS niche and the software niche, if you look at companies like Drift or a company like Alice, and there's plenty of others that do this too, they empower their employees to be extremely active on social media and LinkedIn. And this is great for building their employees like brands and positioning, but also does an incredible job for lead generation for businesses too. So everything that we've done at HeyDigital, the only place that we get business from right now is because of my own personal content that I share on LinkedIn and the podcast that we do and the live streams that we do. We don't do any other marketing whatsoever at the moment. Now, my plan is to get my team to be active there too. If you look at Drift, you look at these companies like Alice, they have like huge portions of their team that are doing things like this, and like they're doing their own live streams, they're sharing their own content. It's great for them because in this like day and age, it's very rare for someone to stay with a company for like 30 or 40 years. And I think previously people would be worried about, hey, well, if I empower my employees to build their own brand, they might then want to leave, or someone else might try and hire them. The way that I see it now is that people, unfortunately, I would love our employees to stay with us for the rest of their lives. I love them so like dearly, but I know that the chances of that happening are very slim. So if I can help them build something that adds more value to them wherever they go next, I want to do that. And at the same time, it benefits us and our business for all this extra reach and awareness. Like people have become a lot more active on LinkedIn over the last 12 months, and it may be like harder to stand out, some people might say, but I still see as a social media platform, nothing performs as well in terms of like organic reach, but also getting in front of like your target prospects than LinkedIn. So that would be like one underrated channel that I think marketing teams at SaaS or software companies or anywhere else could be making better use of at the moment for sure.
Yeah, that's a great insight, actually, because I didn't think about that, but I can totally see how there is this fear of like, oh, I'm going to invest in somebody to build their brand, to kind of empower them to promote our product, and then potentially they might, take off and do something else. I mean, I'm definitely in that position myself. I'm extremely empowered by Restream to do this show, right? Like I have huge support from the company, from the leadership, as well as the rest of my team who is helping to actually run this thing smoothly. But I guess to second what you were saying, I mean, it's a good thing to do because people, if they're happy, it's unlikely that they will just vanish and they take all your customers and just start their own thing. And even if they transition to some other place, I mean, it is still, as long as you maintain a good relationship with them, there will still be that person who started HeyDigital SaaS show, right? Or that person who started Restream's Friday Lives. And they will always probably have warm feelings about that. So it's kind of evergreen, everlasting effect of those efforts, even if the person transitions. So definitely something to consider for for the leadership of companies. What do you think on that kind of side of things? What do you think about the leadership itself showing up on LinkedIn, being active, maybe even streaming and just kind of being the face of your own company and connecting with your audience? Do you think that's a good use of their time?
Yeah, I love it. So I think there's a couple of different ways to look at this. Me personally, I love when I see a CEO, a senior leader sharing content, showing up like authentically, whether it's daily, weekly, whatever, the cadence doesn't really matter. But I love seeing that because it gives a lot more insight into that business and the brand. Like whether it's from a perspective of for hiring, it will help out. Whether it's for winning new business, it will help out. I love people that are willing to do that and share that. However, I do also understand that there are some CEOs and leaders out there who don't want to like be loud, right? They don't want to share their story all the time. They want to just operate in the back end and still be extremely successful. So I don't think you have to be active on, like, you definitely don't have to be active on social to be a successful leader at a software business by any means. Like there are probably hundreds of thousands of successful leaders that there definitely are, that we've never heard of and know nothing about, right? That keep themselves very quiet. Me personally, the way that I see business changing and evolving right now is that I think it's an added advantage if your CEO or if your leadership team are active and open from so many angles. Like this is the way that we win business. First of all, like the only way that we've received or won new clients at HeyDigital is because of the content that I create, and then like some referrals that we've had. So that like it's enabled me to. We're by no means huge, but it's enabled me to build a business that within 2 years, like we now have a small team. We're never had to take any like funding or external help, and we're doing really well right now and growing a lot actually. So there's that angle. There's also the hiring angle. Like I personally, if I was to ever get a job somewhere, like I know that one thing that would attract me would be being able to see the leader leading from the front, right, and being open. I think depending on who your target market is too, but as the like workforce is transitioning a little bit, like as I think the millennial generation and the like Gen Z or X or whatever they are that come after that, I think these are things that are more important to them for the kind of people that they work with. So yeah, I think there's no negativity behind it. I think everyone should be doing it if they want. If they don't want to, that's also totally fine. It doesn't mean you can't build a great business.
Yeah, absolutely. Great stuff. So let's talk about sales a little bit. How does live streaming, in your opinion, could help a SaaS company with their sales goals?
Yeah, good question. So there's a couple of things that are really timely and relevant right now. So not every SaaS business, but so many SaaS companies and marketing teams have been doing webinars for like years, right? As this whole COVID thing happened, everyone seemed to transition to doing webinars because live events were canceled. Like there were no in-person meetings. Everyone has been transitioning to webinars, which if you want to look at it in one way, like a webinar technically is a live event, right? But I see this huge opportunity right now for live streaming from two different perspectives for SaaS companies, or to be honest, just most businesses in general. There's one angle of building community. So this isn't sales related, but one thing I've learned since going live every day over the last 19 or 20 days is that I see people who show up pretty much every single day and drop comments every single day. I've had more messages in my LinkedIn inbox from people than I've ever had before. People reaching out to me that I maybe didn't know that they were even watching the stream, but they tell me that they were watching the stream. I've even had like previous clients that we don't work with anymore telling me that they love the stream. I've had like all that kind of stuff, and using that to build a community around your brand and your business is super, super powerful. And that also does kind of tie into sales, because live streaming is a great opportunity to connect in real time with your audience, answer questions for them in real time, which can help with your sales conversations as well. Build that community to get them coming through to your website, get them checking out your content. And then also, like, everyone is doing these typical webinars and then trying to pitch their product throughout. Yes, they work to some degree, but I think if you were to take it in a live format where you make it a lot more entertaining, a lot more enjoyable for people, and you become much more engaging, I know for a fact that has seen great rewards for people that are doing that too. And the other final thing is, there is no better opportunity to be building brand and community as an online business than there is right now, because people still, it's a challenging time out there. People are spending more time at home. People are looking for things to distract themselves from all the crazy other stuff that's happening in the world. And if you can be that business or that person that provides a platform for people to learn, enjoy, and make other connections, that's going to be remembered, whether it's in a month's time, if they're looking for a software like yours, whether it's in 6 months' time, 12 months' time. If you can do this well and build out the audience well now, there's nothing negative that can happen from that. Only great things can happen. So those are like a few of the opportunities that I see within live streaming for SaaS businesses. And to be honest, just for pretty much any business, I don't see how it wouldn't help you out from doing that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I think it's relevant for anything. Yeah, that's really great stuff. So do you think you have any kind of specific case study or example with, if you can name the company or give as much detail as you can, where live streaming made a difference and kind of like changed their growth trajectory a little bit towards greatness that you could share with us?
Yeah, so this is... I can share. I can't share specific numbers, but there's a client of ours that we work with on, we run their ads. They're a company called Smart, so it's SMARP. They're like an employee communications software. They work with very large businesses, like usually the minimum employee size of a company that would work with them. They have to have like 1,000 employees or more. It's a long sales cycle with deals worth like significant value. One thing that they do really, really well, I'm trying to talk to them about utilizing Restream to be distributing these elsewhere, but they're doing it. They don't want to call them webinars because they're not webinars. They are live sessions. They're not being published on social just yet. So this is the conversation I'm having with them. But one thing that they do really well is it's called the internal or the great comms debate. So their target customer are people that work within internal communications at large enterprise businesses. And instead of doing the typical webinar of like, hey, these are a few problems that you have, this is our platform and how it solves those problems, come and sign up here. That's the kind of process that most companies do with webinars, which is horrendous. What they're doing is once a month, they do the great comms debate, and they just put together a piece of live content that is enjoyable for their target market. There's no pitch of their product. There's no talk about their product. What they do is they get 2 or 3 well-known figures within their industry who come on as moderators, and then a load of people join, and they just debate about things and talk about things within their niche and within their industry. And for the last couple of months, each time there's been like 500, 600, 700 people that have registered for these events, and hundreds turning up live from all different countries. I see that kind of live content for SaaS businesses and B2B brands as a great kind of live content to be utilizing and building. And I know that's had a good impact on new opportunities opened and also pushing deals further down the sales cycle. I can't share like specifically what that is, but that's like one way that I think people should be using live content from this industry as like not just that typical webinar. Instead, focus on, who your target customer is. What kind of content can you put together that they'll actually enjoy and find useful, and do that instead. It doesn't have to be related to your product whatsoever. The main thing is getting a group of people who match your target buyer persona to be engaging and finding something helpful. I think that's like one opportunity that I see for live streaming within SaaS. Yeah.
Awesome. So we're going to transition to our chat because I see that questions are kind of building up, and we're going to try to answer as many as we can. So please, this is a perfect time to add more, because we'll be just choosing different people from different platforms. I can see you from Facebook, from LinkedIn, as well as YouTube. So please bring it on. We'll start with the question here from Facebook. Can Restream be really good for affiliate members to promote goods? So I'm going to kind of rephrase this question a little bit towards just affiliate program in general for SaaS marketing? And Dylan, what do you think? Is this a great tool? And of course, the answer for Restream part is yes, that's a great opportunity to multi-stream and to increase your reach, kind of spread your wings when it comes to where that content goes. But what would you say about affiliate programs as a SaaS tool for promotion and marketing?
Yeah, good question. So affiliate programs within SaaS work really well if executed properly. So I actually did an episode on my podcast, the SaaS Marketing Show is our show, where I interviewed the CMO at a company called Bonjuro, which is like a video platform. And we talked about their affiliate program. Essentially, over 30% of their monthly recurring revenue comes through their affiliate program. So it can work very well. For someone that wants to learn more about how to build a good affiliate program for SaaS, I would recommend checking that episode out. You'll be able to find it if you search for it. In terms of like Restream, I know you kind of answered that already, but one thing that I would also add on to that is, yes, if you're like promoting affiliate products, then one of the great wins from using something like Restream is being able to be on all of these different platforms and expanding your reach significantly. But the other thing that I would say is, like, if we pull it back a little bit and think about live content specifically and how that can be good for affiliates, because Restream is what you use to power this live content, and everybody, if they're doing live content, they should be using Restream. But like they can look at, the thing I love about going live is if you have a product to promote or something that you want to share, there's nothing more powerful than walking through like live how you actually do that or why it's so great. So for example, on my live streams that I do, a couple of weeks ago, I talked about what my like podcast promotion process is like. Obviously, I'm not promoting an affiliate product here, but you can think of the same kind of thing. I talk about my process and I just show it live in real time on my screen and walk through it and answer questions. You can take that approach from the affiliate products that you're promoting. Like on my live streams, because the guys like you at Restream support me, I have like the ad that goes out that talks about Restream, but then I'm also showing how I'm using it and what it's doing and like integrating it into the streams that I'm doing and the videos that I'm doing. So definitely like live streaming and Restream is a great, in my opinion, another great additional channel for affiliate marketers. And I think I answered the SaaS portion of that too. So yeah, that would be my answer to the question.
Yeah, great stuff. A couple of great comments just to kind of boost our self-esteem, Dylan, mine and yours. Great insights and forward thinking from Dennis on LinkedIn. Thank you so much. We're so happy to hear that you're finding value in our comments. And the follow-up, not the follow-up, but the kind of answer to your answers. Okay, that just started a spark in my mind. Thank you. So whatever you said, Dylan, hit home. That is awesome. So here's a question from Randy. How would you go about building a personal brand connected to your company safely? So I guess people are really latching on that idea of empowering your employees to become your ambassadors, your evangelists, and the faces of your brand on social media. So how do you do that safely? I guess however you interpret that.
I'll interpret that two different ways. I think that's a great question, Randy, and it's one that comes up like pretty often. So the first thing I would kind of pick apart a little bit is say, I know you said like, how would you go about building a personal brand connected to your company? Now, the beauty of building a personal brand is that the mistake that most people make is they think it has to be connected to the company in order for the company to see value, but it doesn't. So the way that I look at like personal branding is that as an individual, if you are sharing your like thoughts, your opinions, you're like sharing your knowledge, that doesn't have to be tied into the company that you work at, but it can still significantly benefit the company that you work at, because the more people that see you, the more people that see your content, they then click on your, let's say LinkedIn in this case, they click on your LinkedIn profile, they come through to your LinkedIn profile. And if that's set up explaining like where you work and what you do, there's already significantly more people that will know about the business that you work for. There's a few really good examples. If you're interested in seeing companies that are like empowering their employees to be really active on LinkedIn specifically right now, that is generating awareness for their business and new deals for their business without all of the content being about their business, I would recommend you check out my friend. His name is James Carberry. He's the founder, CEO at a company called Sweetfish Media, which is a podcasting agency for B2B brand. if you go and check out what Sweetfish Media's team are doing, they've just rolled out a program for, I think it's 5 of their employees, where they're empowering them to like build out their own influencer program, essentially. James and I were on a call talking about it last night. Check them out. And then there's also a company who have been very active with their employees on LinkedIn over the last couple of weeks. They're called Gravy. I think it's GRAVVY. If you take a look at their CEO, the content that he's posting, and you'll see that he's also engaging with a lot of his own team. These are some really great examples of how teams are coming together, building their own brands, but also having a great impact on the business. So the way that I kind of pick apart that question a little bit is trying to remove yourself from the thinking of that every piece of content has to be related to the business, because it doesn't. And that there's a significant win-win for everybody involved, like we talked about earlier on. So yeah, that's the way that I would interpret that or break that down, and hopefully that's helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's great. And Randy here is saying, interesting. I didn't think about that way. And that's a great answer. Thank you. I'll check them out. And I actually added the names of those companies that Dylan just shared in the chat. So, and actually, one more thing for everybody. When we finish this stream, I'm going to add some helpful links and resources on all social media platforms where we were live. That would include the link to Dylan's agency, his podcast, and his marketing show, which is amazing and absolutely worth checking out, as well as any other questions that we have here. Like I'm seeing, there's some questions that are kind of like Restream specific. We won't really dive into them. There's one question about RTMP pools. I'm actually going to highlight it just to recognize Richard. Thank you so much for asking about it. So he called it RTMP push. It's actually RTMP pool. It's an interesting feature that allows you to pull different streams, different content creators in one broadcast. We will share a help center article about that, so you guys can check it out and see how that works. And hopefully at some point we will actually create some content on that as well, like a tutorial video explaining how to use that feature. It is under kind of untapped service and underrated opportunity that you have when you're using Restream, for sure. All right, so I'm going to hide our comments for just a little bit. We'll come back to them in the future. Just kind of continue with our thanks, because I wanted to make sure we have time to talk about Dylan's production. So let's start with the SaaS marketing stream. So for those who are just joining us, and actually let me take this opportunity to reintroduce you here. My guest today is Dylan Hey. He is the co-founder of HeyDigital agency. He helps SaaS companies with their marketing, specifically in PPC, pay-per-click area. And he also hosts multiple shows. There's a show about marketing SaaS stream that he streams on a daily basis, I believe, on his LinkedIn. And there's also a podcast, the SaaS Marketing Show, that he's been doing for a while now. So let's get to that. And what are some of the biggest lessons that you learned from the SaaS marketing streams when you actually started to show up live and kind of leverage that live video channel to connect with your community?
Yeah, so the first thing is that I would really recommend planning out your streams. Now, I don't really do too much planning for interviews or live content, just because I'm so used to doing it that I'm pretty good at it. However, one thing that I did find, when you start going live every single day, if you don't have a plan for at least, you don't have to have everything scripted out, but what I do is I have a top level plan for what we're going to be talking about, and then I have a few key points that I want to make sure I run through. So that's the first thing. If you turn up to do a live stream with no plan whatsoever, it just won't be engaging for your audience, and you'll probably lose them pretty quickly. That would be one thing. And then I would say probably the other thing that I've learned over time is, from a streaming perspective, is that things, I know this is a question that we might get to later on too, but there will be things that maybe go wrong or things that don't work out sometimes. And that's okay. You just have to deal with that and move on. I wouldn't get too caught up in if you go live and for some reason the audio isn't working, yes, you can try again, but if not, just come back a few hours later or another day later and continue. I think the main thing is just being consistent with it. So I'm trying to stick to, I'm doing the daily streams right now, apart from on Sundays. I don't stream on Sundays. However, there have been a few times, ultimately I'm running a business as well, and I'm trying to stick to doing the same time every single day. Sometimes that just physically can't happen. Like today, that couldn't happen because we were doing this stream, and
because we're here, right?
it, and I had 2 new client onboarding calls today. So like I literally had no time to do another stream. So I do this one instead. Like a couple of days ago, there was lots of unexpected things that happened that I had to deal with. So I just had to take a day off from doing the stream. So it's like you have to give yourself permission to do that, but also try and aim to be as consistent as possible in those times where you can. Because if someone knows that you're going live every day, but they don't have any clue about what time, the chance of them seeing it are fairly slim unless they're like active on the platform at that specific time. Whereas if you tell people, hey, look, I go live at 4 p.m. every single day or thereabouts, they know at that time to come and check your profile. So that would be the other thing that I would suggest, is building out a consistent schedule.
Awesome. I have one question here that is just absolutely amazing. So I'm going to bring it on. This is a question from Terry. We actually spoke with Terry recently. We're talking about potentially kind of including her in our list of influencers as well. So she has a podcast about how to stream events, how to cover virtual events. Very interesting stuff. So her question is, how easy and challenging is it to easy or challenging, I guess. How easy or challenging is it to jump from recorded medium, like a podcast or pre-recorded show, to a live platform? And what are the benefits of live? I think it's a great question, and it's just for you, Dylan, because you do have exact same experience, right? The podcast transitioning into live streams. So what would you say about that?
Yeah, so for me, it's super easy. I think that's maybe because I'm used to creating a lot of content and being pretty active on these platforms. But I think if you're already hosting a podcast, I think switching or doing more live content will also be super easy for you, just purely because if you think about it, I don't know anything about Terry's podcast specifically, but if it's an interview podcast, like when you are doing those podcasts, yes, people don't hear it immediately, but it's essentially live because you're on a call in real time with somebody interviewing them. There might be some editing that happens afterwards, right? But the actual process of recording is very, very similar. For me personally, it's been very easy to do live content as well. One thing I would suggest, if you want to first get started and you're a bit nervous about doing like live streaming or worried about how it's going to go, you're never going to be perfect from the beginning. It takes time to get used to a new medium. But one thing that I would suggest to Terry specifically, because you have a podcast, is a couple of times I've done live streams where what I actually do is I break down one of the podcast episodes that I just released. And I use it as a great way to promote a new podcast episode, first of all. But secondly, it gives more depth to the podcast. So if someone's already listened to the podcast, and then I do a live stream kind of breaking down some of the key points and sharing after it's been a couple of weeks since we dropped the episode, and I now have like additional learning points from that. That's been a really simple way for me to bring the content together. And I think for you specifically, Terry, would be like a good use case because there would be minimal preparation as well because you've already done the podcast episode. So that would be one thing. In terms of the benefits, I would say podcasting is amazing. It's a great way to reach people consistently with really high quality content when they're actually giving you their undivided attention. However, with podcasting, there is no real-time interaction. So you don't know if people have questions about what they're listening to, or very rarely as a podcast host do I get people that message me with questions about episodes or people that ask me things. Like I get messages from people saying, hey, I love the podcast, etc. But that's kind of it in terms of the communication. With live, when you're live, you can really build a really engaged community and get to know the people that are listening to your show or watching your show. And that for me has been like a huge benefit just over the last couple of weeks. So that would be my advice in your specific use case.
Yeah, just like we did right now, right? Super engaging. We just brought somebody in. Was absolutely great question. Thank you. Thanks for asking, Terry. I absolutely love that question. I'm sure a lot of people are thinking about that. Hey, I have a podcast. I would love to leverage that live video thing. How much of a challenge is that going to be? So speaking of challenges and speaking of not being perfect, I always like to ask that question. Some of my guests like to opt out of that question, but honestly not many, because a lot of people kind of like to embrace that moment of epic fail, right? So I like to ask, what was your most embarrassing moment when you were live, something going terribly wrong, and how you handle that? Because I believe that sharing that experience as a podcast host as well as the live show host is going to empower people who are scared to see that, hey, we all have those moments and that's okay, and you can actually move past them and be perfectly fine. So pick your favorite and let's just embrace it together.
Yeah. I don't necessarily have anything embarrassing, just because, to be honest, like coming into live streaming and podcasting, I was so aware that things are going to go wrong, and that's how you learn. And it takes a lot to like really embarrass me. So there's nothing too embarrassing, but I definitely had challenges. I would say like, for example, I think I'm 20 days into live streaming now. And out of those 20 days, I think 18 of them have worked out really well, but 2 days haven't. Like there was one day where actually just a few days ago here in Estonia, we had some crazy like thunderstorms, and my Wi-Fi connection wasn't too good, but I was like, no, I don't care. I'm going to try and go live anyway because it's my time to go live. And I went live, and like the stream was really jittery because my Wi-Fi wasn't strong enough, and like the audio wasn't syncing up too well. And I streamed for like 8 to 10 minutes, realized that there was nobody commenting and nobody saying anything, and that there was like only a couple of people watching, and then ended the stream. So that kind of sucked a little bit, because it's like you spend time preparing for something, you go live, you spend like 10 minutes streaming or whatever, and you realize that it's not working. So that, to be honest, that's been the only case of like something not working out too well. There's been 2 streams that I've done where I had, one was an issue with Wi-Fi, one was I had my like, I tried to use OBS and I didn't have my settings set up properly, so it didn't, the live stream was like really jumpy when it was live. And to be honest, that's kind of it. I'm just fully aware that things are going to go wrong, and that's like fine. The goal is just being consistent enough so that you only have, like, if you have 2 things go wrong, you have 18 things that go well, right? Whereas if you just try it once and it goes wrong and then you stop, that's when it can be like soul destroying for people, I guess. But I would say the benefits massively outweigh the fact that sometimes something might go wrong. Yeah.
So what's your go-to reaction when things go wrong? Like, because I know there's several ways how people just naturally react. One way is just to freak out. That is very natural one. Like, oh my God, everything is wrong. I should never stream again. I'm a total failure. Like, let's just close this and forget that ever happened. Another way is humor. Of course, like you can kind of embrace that this happened. Like, oh, my kid is running around, the room while I'm trying to be live and be serious and talk about business. Ha ha ha. Let's just like kind of include that into the conversation and make it kind of comedic. Or there is also a way that I call my way. It's like poker face, pretend like that never happened. So you started talking about lightning and thunderstorm. I was kind of expecting some kind of an epic, a disastrous, like apocalyptic thing, like the lightning hit my room, like everything was like going crazy. So like if that happened to me, I would totally be like, oh, like nothing happened. Yeah, the roof is on fire. I'm just going to continue this until as long as I can. So what's your natural reaction, Dylan, and what's your recommendation?
Yeah, my natural reaction is just to like talk about the fact that something has gone wrong and not worked, and like I'll talk about it on the stream. And then if I like look and I see that people just physically can't watch this because it's like the audio is not working or things are jumpy or whatever, then I'll stop the stream and I'll try again tomorrow, and I'll just like put in the comments about what happened and that we'll be back tomorrow. And if there were people that were like super engaged during the stream, I'll message them directly. If it depends on how far into the stream I am. If I'm like 20 minutes in, then I'm not going to restart, because usually I just don't have time. I like allot a certain period of time to stream, and if I have other calls, for example, I can't go over that. If it's like within the first 2 minutes, then I'll just stop the stream and I'll start again. And weirdly enough, that usually fixes it. But that's my approach. I won't try and pretend that nothing happened, because it's usually pretty obvious if there was a problem, right? So I'll be like fairly vocal about it, and then either just stop and come back tomorrow, or stop and start again, depending on how far into the session I am.
Awesome. So let's talk a little bit about your gear. Like, you have a cool setup there going on. Can you just very briefly kind of give an overview of what does it how much effort do people need to put into setting up their gear, the hardware, the lights, the cameras and stuff? Just kind of a very quick overview so people could understand like what are their next steps if they actually want to go and start doing this.
Yeah, so my first piece of advice when I say that is always that you don't need all the fancy equipment to get started. I would say if you're doing a podcast or a live stream, the one piece of like essential equipment from my recommendation is a good microphone. Just because if it's a podcast and it's audio only, that's your only medium of like engaging with someone. You don't want it to be really bad quality. So I would always recommend people just get a microphone, like an external microphone to begin with. You can like the go-to kind of entry-level one is usually like a Blue Yeti or something like that. I don't know what the prices of them are now, because with the whole Corona thing, everyone buying more webcams and like microphones. I know availability was hard on some things. So my first thing to just get started would be just a microphone. You don't need to spend hundreds of dollars. You don't need to go really in depth. Now, me personally, because I'm live streaming every day at the moment, I have the podcast. I am generating revenue from these channels, both in terms of agency, like clients joining our, like working with us as an agency, and like partnerships and sponsorships for the podcast and the live stream. I have two things. I have like a duty to our sponsors to put out the best quality content that I can. And for me, upgrading the setup is something that's really important to do that. And then when guests come on our podcast and on our show, I want them to see that we're investing time and effort into this. Before this whole world situation, my plan was to actually do a lot of our podcast interviews and sessions in person. Like I was going to go to whichever country or city these founders were in and go and interview them and like have a videographer for the day who would film everything and edit things together. Obviously, we can't get to that production level right now because of the way that things are. So I'm doing the best with what we have in our little home office here. So for me, that's like a better quality microphone. I have one that's, I think it's called the Rode Procaster. I just, a couple of weeks ago, got this little like podcasting deck down here, which is called, I think it's like the Rodecaster Pro. That's been pretty good for me. And then I have like a Logitech webcam that I use. And to be honest, that's like pretty much it. But you don't need all of that stuff to begin with by any means. It depends where you're at and how serious you are about this stuff. For me, all of like the podcast and the live streams generate revenue for our business. So it makes sense that the better I make it, the more revenue we generate. So I don't mind investing in equipment. But yeah, just to be clear, like you can, if you really wanted to, you can start live streaming like just from your laptop, right? Or maybe even from your phone, I don't know. But I would recommend over time, if you can improve the setup, then I definitely would.
Awesome. I guess just a couple of questions that I have for you left. We're kind of coming close to the end of our show here. And I know, Dylan, you have kind of a hard stop here today. So I'm getting more and more questions kind of building up. So there's a chance that maybe I will let Dylan go and I kind of stay and respond to some questions a little bit, because some of them are kind of related to Restream. Primarily. So the question I had for you, Dylan, though, is regarding the future of LinkedIn Live, and what is your forecast for how this is going to grow and evolve and develop, considering that right now LinkedIn streaming is still pretty restrictive. So you have to apply, not everyone gets it. There's certain requirements and criteria that you have to meet. What do you think, how this is going to look, several months from now, years from now, and especially affecting SaaS businesses?
Yeah, honestly, I don't really know too much, because like I don't really know how I even got access to LinkedIn Live. Like I submitted a form to try and get access to it a very long time ago, and then one day it just appeared. I don't have any contact with anyone in the team there about it or anything. So I wish I knew a bit more. I wish I had direct contact with somebody in the team about new things that they were rolling out or best practices, etc. In terms of the platform itself, I don't really know. The one thing I would say is if we look at live streaming in general, on other platforms and how significant that is and how big a part of these platforms it is. LinkedIn is growing as a platform. It's evolving as a platform. It used to just be where people came to share their like CV or their resume online, right? Whereas now it's becoming a platform for content creators as well. So as more creators continue to come to the platform and as they improve their live offering, more people are going to start using this. As a SaaS business or a B2B company, your audience hang out the most on LinkedIn. Like it's pretty easy to say that for sure, that most B2B or SaaS companies, their audience are on LinkedIn without a doubt. So if live content becomes an even bigger part of the platform, it would be crazy for you not to spend some time investing into how you're going to make use of that. If you can get access to LinkedIn Live now, yes, it's still in the like beta testing, so I don't know how easy it is to get access. I do get people ask me that all the time. Like if you can get access or if you do have access, just start using it, because what I often find is that when the platforms roll out new things, it's only beneficial to you to be using them. Like when we run ads on Facebook and all these other platforms, if Facebook introduces a new ads feature and we use that, often it gets better results than if we weren't using it. And I think it's the same with new features across most platforms. So if you have the opportunity, then I would definitely recommend trying it out. Like for sure, I don't see how it couldn't be beneficial to you as a business.
Awesome. So last question for you. I like to end this conversations, this casual chats with something personal, kind of a little bit more about our guest, not necessarily just the topic that we were focusing on today. So Dylan, you currently live in Estonia. Some people might not even know where that country is and never heard about that country. For me, it's easy because I was born and raised in Russia. So Estonia is actually one of those Baltic countries, northwest of Russia. That some of them actually border Russia, so that's why I'm kind of very familiar with that area. And while some people don't know about it, others might actually have heard that it is an aspiring hub for startups and tech companies these days. A lot of interesting things are happening in that region. So, what brought you to Tallinn? Can you share your experience living in Estonia?
Yeah, so for people that don't know, it's a very small country, especially Tallinn as a city is very small, but it has the highest number of like unicorn tech startups per square kilometer anywhere in Europe, I believe. So that's like one thing that we really love about this place. One of the reasons that I came here was the forward-thinking nature of the people here. The technology scene is awesome, like you said. The infrastructure here is incredible. Like I have my little ID card and basically everything in my life is stored on there. Like I can get anything I need, like receipts from stores, prescriptions, like everything you need is on this little card. It's like small things like that. And the way that people do voting here, the way that basically everything is online, and it's very impressive the way that they do that. What initially brought me here was that I was working for a SaaS company who were based in Helsinki in Finland. And when I worked with those guys, we were a remote team, so I got to travel a lot. I got to spend some time in Helsinki. I got to spend some time in Tallinn. Really enjoyed it here. Learned a bit more about the culture of business here and their e-residency program at the time. And then when I decided to set up my own company, I'd spent a year and a half traveling around the world, like doing 1 or 2 months in one city, 1 or 2 months somewhere else. And I'd already lived in London in the past and didn't want to go back to London, wanted to try somewhere new because I really enjoyed the whole travel aspect. And I wanted to stay firm in one spot so I could really focus on building this business. So I just decided to try Estonia. And that was about a year and a half ago, nearly 2 years ago. And yeah, I've been here ever since. So that's how I ended up here and how I found out about the place.
So you love it there, right? Like you're basically not looking for a change anytime soon, right?
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I guess that's going to be our show. For those people who have submitted new questions and comments, please hang on tight. I'm going to actually highlight some of the comments right now and answer some of the questions. So we'll probably extend the show for an extra 10 minutes or so. But Dylan, thank you so much for joining us today. Great information, great insights. It was such a pleasure talking to you. And like I said, we'll add some helpful links and resources to the comments from Dylan and from Restream part of things. Thank you so much for being my guest today.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me, Anya. I'll follow up with you with like an email after this too. I just have to jump on another call. But yeah, thank you. I really appreciate it. It's really fun. Great to meet everybody too. And if you want to connect with me, as Anya said, like the links will be in the chat somewhere, or you can just come and find me on LinkedIn. I'd love to meet any of you who watch this.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Dylan.
Thank you.
Let me hide you here. So for those of you who is just joining me today, towards the end of our stream, my guest today was Dylan Hey. He is the co-founder of HeyDigital. It's a marketing agency that helps SaaS companies with their PPC and other marketing needs. He's also the host of the Marketing SaaS show and podcast. Great insights on various topics related to marketing SaaS products and very interesting specific use cases and case studies of clients that Dylan worked with. I will add the link to his profile on LinkedIn as well as the website to all the platforms here. So you guys can come check him out. Definitely great content to follow. Just a couple more questions that I thought I would love to highlight because it's some of them are related to Restream primarily, so I'm just going to take a couple here. Here's a good question. How do you pop up text on the screen and have it disappear individually? So this stream is powered by Restream, and I'm using Restream Studio. It's our relatively new product that allows you to live stream on multiple platforms at the same time directly from your browser. You just create an account, go to Restream Studio, and you can click the live button, connect all your channels first, and then just go live to all those channels at the same time. We do have captions, graphics, and overlays, like those overlays that I was using for the title and the name for me and for Dylan. you can see, let me figure out which side. Yeah, right here, this little logo of Restream. That is also one of the overlays that is customizable. You could add all that information. You can highlight the chat messages like I'm doing right now from all platforms. So I'm bringing in people from Facebook, from LinkedIn, from YouTube. I feel that this is very engaging and it kind of helps people to participate in your life with their questions and comments. So this is how I do it. Definitely go check it out. I'm gonna do the caption real quick if you want to see how that works. It's restream.io/studio. It kind of shows a little bit about how it works, and that's also a great place to sign up and explore and experiment with it. So another question that I thought was interesting. Hi guys, in terms of pure content, webinar versus live streaming, what works? Are webinars going to become obsolete? So Dylan kind of touched on that a little bit earlier today, that webinars are still going to exist. We believe it kind of depends on your goals and on your business purposes. So whatever you're looking for some people, webinars are extremely effective. They do drive sales. They are great for kind of Q&As and product launches when you have kind of a big piece of content that you want to show, specifically tutorial or specifically how this product works, how these features come together. If there's some kind of a hardware that you can actually show how it comes together and how it works, that's all good stuff. But if part of your strategy is relationship building, if communication is the key, if interactive piece is very important, then definitely live streaming is my choice. This is how we promote the tools and things that you can do with Restream. And this is definitely something that I highly recommend for businesses and brands from all kinds of industries, because it's very, it's kind of natural, authentic, and unpolished. You can see that here we're not necessarily following any scripts. We're just kind of including you guys in conversation, answering your questions, kind of going back and forth with our questions and thoughts. And I feel that this is very powerful compared to webinars that are much more structured and organized, but they lose that authenticity and that connection sometimes. Again, depends how you do it, right? Another question that I wanted to take: how does one overcome when you go live with a topic that you're passionate to share with on one there on stream? So I guess the question is how do you overcome the topic that you're passionate to share? So I guess there's not much that you need to overcome. Is if you're passionate about the topic, that's a great reason for you to go live and stream about it, because that means that you will be probably more engaging, more convincing, and the conversation is going to bring more value to people who are watching and listening because you genuinely care about what you're talking about. So unless I didn't get the question right, please feel free to comment and rephrase it. So one good comment here from My Living Room Live, composure and humor. So that is in relation to what we're talking about, like what do you do when your live stream doesn't go as planned, when something goes wrong and you kind of like get a little bit of an oopsie moment. Composure and humor is definitely a great way to address those kind of issues. I wish I had that in me. I just kind of, when something goes wrong, I tend to just really freak out, or one of the remedies that I found in myself is to pretend like that never happened. And then I'm like, this is my imaginary world. Like nothing ever broke. Everything is fine. And that helps me with composure for sure. But I appreciate and adore people who can turn, the moments, the unexpected moments and challenges into humor and comedy. I think that is absolutely brilliant and definitely worth exploring. So many platforms: Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Periscope, and now LinkedIn. Too many apps for choices. Well, and this is where Restream comes in place as potential solution for what platform to choose, where to go live. You can actually go live everywhere, and tools like Restream make it very easy. You can keep your community together. You can engage them from different platforms, show the comments so they could see what other people are saying, and it is pretty easy. It definitely helps you in terms of time. You don't have to create multiple streams and multiple pieces of content. You just do it once and it goes to all destinations at the same time. Helps you grow your audience, helps you increase engagement. And if your streams are targeted towards sales and marketing and promotion, then you reach more people, you reach more eyeballs, and that just cannot be not helpful, right? So definitely something to consider if you are kind of torn between which platform should I focus on. You don't have to choose one place. You can be everywhere, right? So I think that is going to be it for today. A lot of great questions, a lot of interesting comments, a lot of great insights from Dylan. I really appreciate everyone showing up today and joining us on this Friday Lives, and I hope to see you next week. We are going to have another great show for you, and we will announce it early next week. Well, thank you, everybody, and have a wonderful rest of your Friday and a great weekend.